go ahead and do the introduction of our speaker.
Okay. These speakers working, are these mics working good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you good, Steve. All the other sides should turn theirs on mute, and I'll be turning ours on mute. And just, I guess I can't because I do have Scott will be presenting, talking through ours. So,
okay. The purpose of this DDN is to provide all district offices access to background checks for consumers in South Dakota and nationwide. And currently, Rapid City and Sioux Falls have been using IntelliCorp, which is a company that Scott's with, to do background checks, which covers the whole nation. However, we've been running South Dakota's individually through UJS, which Bernie and Jill Gusso will be talking about the second half. Each district office now has a designated person who will run the searches, and but everybody attending it's going to be good to see what's involved. Scott Eigenbrod will soon be we'll be seeing his desktop. He's a person I've been working with for some time on this, deciding on a provider to stick with. We looked at verifications out of Mitchell, and that we chose to stay with IntelliCorp. And one other thing before I introduce Scott, the PowerPoints, he may or may not follow that, but that's a good reference to actually do the checks. So I'll turn it over to Scott, and there will be on Bernie's laptop, and there it is.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. Now, you guys can see everything right now?
we see we see it very good.
Okay, great. And feel free to ask any questions if you have any while I'm doing this. Before we begin to do a search, I wanted to show you, 3 quick slides. The first one is a little bit about us. We're located in Ohio. We started back in 1996, and we were acquired by ISO, an insurance company that aggregates data, and became a full-fledged background service and pre-employment screening service. We do have a largest database out there with 290 million records out of 650 million, and that's records that are up to date. People that are reporting to us within the last month or even the last week. Anything that falls outside of that, we actually will have somebody physically go out and check for records in the county. On the next slide, now here's a few things on why it's important to do background checks. Of course, dishonesty by employees are going to cost you money, 1 to 2% gross sales. I'm not sure if that affects you as much, but 30% of all business failures are caused by employment theft. 53% of all job applications contain false information. 50% or more of all new hires don't work out, costing $7,000 to replace salaried employee and $10,000 for a replacement mid-level employee. And Bernie told me this was kind of important, and I think it's important to a lot of companies, because you don't want to find out a month or two later that you have to retrain somebody. And then workplace violence costs employers $36 billion annually. And we have a little bit more on the importance of background checks. There's things like lawsuits by employees or third parties, violence in the workplace, unqualified employees, lost business to customers, negligent hiring, sexual harassment, financial losses, and etc. Now, I'm going to get to the background checks themselves right now. The first thing you want to do, the people that are going to be running the searches were sent a user ID and a password. So what you want to do is you want to go to IntelliCorp.net, and this will be the front page of our website. And you're going to have a few tabs up here. They're going to show you a little bit about some of the products that we offer outside of what you're doing now, some of the business solutions, things that you won't need right now, but me and Steve have looked at before. The resources is a good place to go to because you have frequently asked questions. So if you have any questions, you can look on there. Or you can go to the forums and downloads. And this is where if you need to find some, one of the things you need to find is authorization and release form. And I'll show you when we get into the web page itself where else you can find this as well. But this is something, if Bernie hasn't sent these out, this is what you need to have potential employees fill out before you run a search on them. And you want to keep these on file for 5 years. It's taking a second to open up. Here, I'll cancel this. We'll do it when we get into the website itself. So that's a little bit on the front page. So what you want to going to do? They sent you 2 different emails. The first one's going to have your username. And then the second one has your password, and they send them separately for, to make for security reasons.
And Scott, this is Bernie. I just want to add one comment here that we kind of designated a person in each district to be the go-through person in processing the records check through your company.
Okay, and then now the first thing I want to show you is over here in the download section again. You have this over here in this on the left-hand side. Now here's the authorization and release form. And it'll take a second for it to open up. I open up on my other page here. So this right here is basically a template. And this is the information you need to have them fill out. You can change this and modify it any way you want. You can put the heading of the rehabilitation center, anything you want to do. But this is basically a template that anybody that hasn't used them before, you can use this. Now, Bernie wanted me to show you, and Steve wanted me to show you how to run a search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bad guy for you. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to hover over Perform a Search, and then go to IntelliSearch, and click on IntelliSearch. Now you want to put the last name first, and then the first name. And then if you don't have a middle name or a middle initial, you want to put none. And then what the former last name is, this is if you have a young lady that has recently been married, maybe within a year, you might want to run a former last name because she might be Smith now, and she was Swanson before that. So there might be more, if you want to find some records, you might have to look under the former last name of Swanson. There's an additional fee, around $4.95 for that, but you can fill it out here. Now, Barbara doesn't have that. So you want to put date of birth in. And then the Social Security number. And then select a gender, and she's a female. Now, the reference code, you can put anything you want in there. This is basically when you're going to look up previous searches you did in the past. Some people might do it by location. That's something you might not need because you guys are going to get billed separately for each location. People might do it for job code, but it's any way you want to mark something so you can go back and easily reference it and find out the search.
We could probably put in our case master ID, which is a unique number there for the person's VR case.
And use that as a way to look them up again?
Yeah.
Sure. Now, the next part is you have the email information or address information. You need one or the other. You don't need both. In this case, we have the email. underscore.
This is the person's email?
Yes. And
Okay.
what this is for is if there is a criminal record found and they need to send an adverse action letter, and we have to notify them that we found a record on them, and they can call us and dispute it with us. This record's wrong, or it's not the right person, something like that. But we have to have one or the other. Most people are going to have the physical address. And let me close this out. But if you have the email address, the only difference is they're going to get the email address faster. They're going to get the information instantly. Where the regular mail, it might take 2 or 3 days for them to get that in the mail. Now, your accounts are set up the same way mine are, so you have unlimited counties, and I'll explain what that means later. But you're going to have the Social Security number verification checked off and the criminal checked off. So you're just going to leave that as is, and it's fairly simple after this point. You hit continue to next step, and what you want to do is on the search navigator to the left here, you want to make sure all your information is correct. You're going to see that your Social Security verification is already included in your bundle. They have that right here, and it's checked off. So you won't have to worry about the consent-based verification. You just want to hit continue at that point, and right now they're running the Social Security number. Up here, anywhere that you see the blue United States icon, that means it's included in your bundle. So National Sex Offender Registry, that's already included. You don't have to check on that. You can leave that unchecked. Up here, this is another place where you can run former last names. So you would just put, say they had multiple last names, you can put that in there, check it, and then you can see there's an additional fee of $4.95 per last name. Now, right here, down here, the recommended criminal search. These are any counties that did not fall into our 290 million records. So the reason I picked Barbara, because I knew she would come up with a county that shows up on here. Now, you want to leave these checked because it's already included in your bundle. The only time Steve told me that you guys want to uncheck this is for South Dakota, because you're getting a court fee with each county. Every county in South Dakota charges $15. So Steve said you guys are going to run the UJF for anybody in South Dakota, but this anywhere outside of South Dakota, you just want to leave this checked on there. So you hit continue to the next step, and then this is going to be a verification of what you have on here. Now, you're going to see this because your bundle's going to be a little bit cheaper. It's the same package, but it's a little bit cheaper. And you're going to see the counties in here. And it's all going to be included, and it's going to be, I believe you're running the $24.95 package. Now, occasionally, there'll be a court fee outside of, in some of the other states, in North Dakota or Texas, or Steve ran across somebody in New York where it's a fairly large court fee. They had charged $65 for some of the counties in New York. I'm not sure what your rules are on that, but if you did not want that court fee or you did not want that county, you would just uncheck that. So you'd be unchecking it for South Dakota, any of the searches there, and depending on the court fees, I think you would have to talk to your boss on that. So the next step is you hit process.
And Scott, this is Bernie. I guess we're leaving that up to the counselors out there.
Okay.
That from talking with a client how old it may be, or if we're not aware of information. So it's kind of left out there, the counselors and supervisors, to make that determination.
Okay.
On those selections.
Sure. Yeah, and it's going to vary by state and county. Some states, like California is like South Dakota. There's you have to do a single county search. But
yeah, I think South Dakota is we can do the unified search.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anything that comes up under South Dakota, me and Steve were discussing that you guys want to uncheck that. but anything outside that you wanted to leave in there. And then the court fees you would discuss with the person that makes the decision at your location. Now, on this page, you're going to have the name of the person, the subject you ran, all the information is in there. You can print this page out. They have a printer-friendly version right here, and then print it out. But it does have the whole Social Security number on here. The next page will have the same information and more, and just have a truncated version. That might be a little safer to keep on file. But at this page, the next thing you want to do is you either want to go to Results Center up here, or you can go to Results Center right here. And right here, you're going to have all the searches you just ran within the last 45 days. And you can see the search we just ran, 12/11, Barbara Redding. And after they're archived after 45 days, you can go up to here, and you can search by year, month. You can pull up, their alphabet that way, or you can go to the lookup, and you can put information in here, and anything that you put in there, their name. You could probably just put their name, as long as it's not a common first name, and it will probably pop up right away. So we go back to current. Now, we also have the icon legend down here at the bottom. If the red, yellow, or green has a check in it, that means it's completed, what they searched. If it's still in process, I took off the county, it would tell you when the county's returning information. It's usually 1 to 3 days, and that would be unchecked. But we took the county off, so it's all went database information, and it's all checked. And for here, green, of course, is going to be, it's clear. There's really no information, no record on that person. Yellow is a review recommended. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's any records or anything that they found on there, but you might need to look at it a little closer. And then on the red, of course, you're going to find there's a record. So click on Barbara's name to get the information, and you can see here it has the same information that we had on the last page, but it has a truncated version of the Social Security number. And then you do have a print up icon up here on the right-hand side, and you can print this out. Now you can see the order information. This is all the information on your order, the account ID, account name, the person who's running it, requested ID, and the purpose of the search. You can go down to the report summary, and sometimes there'll be more information here, but the Social Security number verification results found. So what you want to do is you want to go down here, and you can look through the information. You can see on the death master file, Barbara Redding has DOD on 2/13/2004. So that's why that was yellow. Now, you're going to go down to the address history, and you're going to see that here's her most recent addresses and the dates that they came up with the information. As you can see, most of these people most of the names on here are Barbara E. Redding, Barbara Redding. Occasionally, it does not have that on here. You'll see a name that's not your person. And in situations like that, that could be somebody that co-signed for a loan with them, or they lived in the same apartment and they co-signed for the apartment. But long as most of the names on here are your person, you can feel safe that is your person. If you ever have questions on it, I'll show you on the previous page. There's an area where you can click on and talk live or chat live with a customer service person, and they're very good at deciphering a lot of this information. So there are no records found on this person, but at the if there was, the information would be below here, and it would sit there and it would show all of the court records, when the date was issued. And I'm sorry, I'm surprised that I thought there would be a record. I think it's because I unchecked the county. Okay, so we close that out. There's a few things that I wanted to show you before I wrap this up. On your account, the one thing you want to do is go into your profile, and you can see results notification and email notification. It'll be set on none for yours. You want to go in there, set it up for email notification, and hit update. And what this does is they will send results of the searches by email to your email accounts. And they will, that way, if there's a county search and it takes 2 or 3 days before you're going to get all that information back, you don't have to go back all the time and check to see if there was anything returned or if the search is finished. Also, on the results at a glance, you have up here pending reports. If there was any counties pending, it will tell you how many of them are out there still, completed reports, and then any reports that were updated. Up here, you have the announcement section. And right here, we have training twice a day, sometimes 3. It's usually 10 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Eastern, and they hit a few days a week. They have a 6 p.m. Eastern that you can click on this. Oh, and it'll tell you what it's about. And then if you wanted to schedule a training, you click on the training right here. So if there's anybody else, if they weren't able to get access to the recording of this, or they just wanted to do a quick training with Michael, they can go in here and you have the dates on here. And you could see I just got a result by email of what I just searched. And this was sent to my email. And they show you what it was named, name match, and the other information. We also have in our help section, we have this area. If you, we talked about court fees before. You can click on this, and it'll give you the court fees for every state and the counties that do have the court fees in that said state. It's taking a minute for it to pop up. Here we go. And then when you go there, you get court fees. Oh, that's not it. It's taking a minute. Sorry about that.
Scott, am I correct that sometimes it may then take 2 or 3 days to get results?
Yes.
Okay.
On the counties that they have to send somebody out to physically go look for records, they can take 2 or 3 days. We say an average 1 to 3 days. And what they'll do is they'll put up. I'll show you where it's at. Go to the results center. They'll show right here on the completion date when the expected completion date will be. So it'll give you, like, say if we found one and there was searching a court, it might say 12/14/2011. That's when they expect that back. And then if you have, here's more information, the help area, you have the downloads for Ask Questions and Learning Center. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell on running the searches. Is there any questions?
This is Bernie. I just kind of want to recap a few things here. Sioux Falls and Rapid City have been utilizing this for some time. Those offices are close to other states because you have people that may have lived in Minnesota or Iowa that maybe the South Dakota search would not have picked up, and also the other addresses. And I guess also Yankton kind of sits on the border there also, and so that's where it's been helpful. And there may be times where even though a person has lived in South Dakota all their life, they may have a record out of another state that when they were down there on a visit or whatever the situation may be. So Linda and I said Linda Mayer and Linda Noonan, are you both on at all? That if you have any comments you want to add before we turn it over to other questions to people?
Linda isn't here in Sioux Falls.
Okay. I'm assuming Rapid City was
What?
Linda Meredith does it?
No.
It's Liz Drew would say, Bernie.
All is. Okay.
Oh, Liz.
So are people already designated in the offices?
Yes, there is person in each district that's already designated for who the contact is, for consistency. Because there is, you do need to go into the system, and you do need to authorize it first. And I'm trying to get back on the screen here and stuff. So you need to authorize it, and the VR faces onto there, and so it generates that payment. So let's go around for if there are questions out there. That's Liz. That's you sitting there, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. I am here.
You're the one that's been using the Rapid City as a contact person.
Yes, I have been.
You want to add any comments or how it's working for you?
No. It's working well. The billing part is the one. If you have multiple searches, it's kind of tricky, but it's doable.
Okay. Okay. How many are you doing at a period of time, Liz?
Boy, in the last 3 months, I think I've only done 2. So it kind of, one time I think I had 5 in a month, and then, it just varies.
Okay. Other offices, do you have questions for Scott at this time?
You mind if I ask Liz what the issue was with the billing? Because I might be able to help that out.
Liz, did you hear that on the question of the billing?
What was the question?
Scott was wondering what was the issue you're having with the billing. Is it because the rate is $24.95 and there may be other charges on top of it, or?
No, it's just when you have more than one person, it's all on the same statement, and then you have to go and, of course, copy one for each person and black out the other information for each, So it's just a little tedious, but...
Yeah, Scott, what we do is we kind of keep a record of each person's case file, and so when they have 4 people listed on one billing, we got to cross out the other 3 people.
Oh, okay, on the bill that you get in the mail?
Yeah.
Now, we do have a section where you can set up your accounts by paying with credit card, and you can itemize it out online. I don't know if that would help.
The client services system we have really doesn't have a credit card option to there.
Right, so you have to get a bill in the mail.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hello, Scott.
Yes.
Yeah, Steve here. Could you explain how that, when the final billing looks, it might confuse some individuals out there where everything adds up to $24.95.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
would you do that? Sure.
Yeah, and what it does is, depending on how many products, they might only be running 3 different products, like the Social Security number, sex offender, and the criminal search, because we have all the counties in our database. So there might be only 3 items that they're using. So they'll split that up 3 different ways, so it adds up to $24.95. Say there was 2 more counties that popped up that were included in the search as well. So you have 5 different items. They would split it up 5 ways, and it would come up to $24.95. So, depending on how many products they use to complete the search, it's always going to add up to $24.95. But the price for each product is going to vary. It's going to change. I mean, the price for that product isn't actually changing. The way we have it set up on our end, they have it distributed evenly across the board. Does that make sense? Or did I make it clear as mud on that one?
That was clear to me there, Scott.
Okay.
And I can, people can ask me too if there's some questions, or I'm sure Liz or Linda, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And after you see a few of them, I mean, if you're like me, I'm more of a visual guy, so if I see something, it's a little clearer for me. Because you can see a couple different names, and there might be a couple different products used on each person.
Yeah, Steve Reese's kind of taking the lead on this, but Liz Drew in Rapid City and Linda Noonan in Sioux Falls have been using the systems for a while and stuff
So
like
they've probably
that.
seen that.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions, Mayor Scott, before we move forward? Other offices? Well, in that, Scott, I do want to thank you for joining us today. And like I said, we'll probably have a few more offices and staff connecting and start using it in the future. It
Okay.
just, what we're seeing as some of our consumers are selecting certain employment goals, it is helpful to have this information ahead of time before we start getting into intensive training, especially in fields such as teaching that may require a criminal background check. But we're just seeing a lot of employers in general that are doing a pretty thorough verifications check on a person's background, and things do show up onto there that may end up losing a cost in employment or limiting them from that occupation into there. So
Sure, and it's I'm sorry, and I'd like to interject you. It's very inexpensive for even if you just get one person out of 50 or 100, in the long run, it's worth it.
okay. Well,
Say,
Steve,
Barney,
Scott?
this is
for
Brookings.
Steve.
Okay, we got a question here.
Brookings has a question.
Sylvia, you want to ask the question about the...
Sure. Hey Bernie, this is Sylvia from Brookings. I was just wondering about the release of information. Are we going to use those only when we are going to be getting a background check done right away, or are we going to be incorporating that into our application process and just doing it for everyone?
Yeah, I want to pull that off. Typically our release, I think, could meet the requirements. We're saying to pull it off onto there, but I want to get a copy of that, and maybe Steve Reese, could you email me a copy of that, and so let me take a look see if our just regular release form could do it or not onto there.
Yes, I'll get that done.
So Sylvie, I've got to look at it first, but I'll see if I can get an answer out to you by the end of this week on that.
Is Steve still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Say if you're doing a background check, this is Jean, by the way, Aberdeen office. If you're doing a background check and you indicate, say, Brown County in South Dakota, however, they have a felony or whatever in Oklahoma, does the background check indicate that, or does it just come back as no record?
Scott, are you there?
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if you was asking Steve. So you're saying, I'm not sure on the question.
Well, this counselor is in Brown County area, and if they did a criminal records check, and you said if there was a felony in another state, it would pick up the felony in the other state, and that's the advantage of using the IntelliCorp system, is it does give information across to the states plus the other locations, addresses they may have been living at.
Yeah, so it would say, I believe she said Oklahoma. If it was a county in Oklahoma, Tennessee, Florida, New York, if they lived in that county, they will search for the records, and if there is a record in that county, they will pull it up. It would also as well in South Dakota, but as Steve was talking about, he wanted everybody to use the UJF because it's a little cheaper. South Dakota has a $15 court fee for every county.
Yeah, but it's when we run it through UJS, there's no cost to us right
Exactly.
now onto that. If we know the person's been only in South Dakota,
Then use the UJF.
but I think if you're questioning if a person's been in other states and may have some potential criminal records in other states, it may be worthwhile to run the IntelliCorp. if you feel that that occupation may be a problem with any potential criminal records. Teaching or in the professional fields, it'd be an issue going taken onto there.
Yeah, and then if the, sometimes the person, if they do have a criminal record in another state, they're not going to, some people will be honest about it. Some people, they might try to keep that hidden. They won't tell you that they live there. And, I've had it happen many times where people had no idea that this person actually lived in Texas or Florida at one time. They didn't bring that up, and they actually found a record for them there.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott?
Oh, that's what it was.
Bernie, this is Liz Drew. Is this a question for you? Are we still only running these on people that have already been determined eligible? That was what I understood the policy was, or
Procedures.
just up to the counselor?
I think it probably it's not necessary to run until they're eligible status, because that's when you're approving employment goal, and that's where we're going to need to deal with it more. I mean, none of this information is necessary for eligibility purposes. If a person's on a Social Security, they're going to be presumed eligible. You could initiate this criminal records background immediately onto there, but my recommendation is if you think they're going to be eligible, or they are eligible, is the time to run it. If you're not sure if they're even going to be eligible, you may want to wait with it. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions out there?
I have a question, Bernie.
Sure.
Does this show up federal and state charges?
Scott, the question is, does...
yeah.
Yes.
They have the upper and lower courts, yeah.
Yeah.
So then, if we do a search through the UJS, that doesn't show federal charges, does it? So if we have somebody with federal charges, even in South Dakota, we should do this in Keller Court.
One of my thoughts, Scott, and you kind of mentioned that they should uncheck the South Dakota. I'm almost thinking they probably should just keep that checked.
Okay.
Because we may not run the South Dakota one all the time on people if we're questioning some out-of-state or some federal charges onto there.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for Scott? Okay. Scott, I do want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me in.
Okay. And hope you have a good Christmas.
You as well, and everybody else have a great Christmas and a good New Year.
Okay. We'll have you hang up from here now then?
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Bye.
Thanks, Scott.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Steve. Oh, bye.
You just said thanks. Bye.
Oh, thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's continue on. I introduce Steve. Do you have anything to add before we continue on here? And
Just on what Scott, there were some questions on South Dakota federal charges and out of state stuff. One good thing is these reports also pull up all the addresses a person lived, whether or not they even had an offense there. On some reports, I've got addresses, so somebody did live in 3 different states, and you had no idea that. So, but other than that, that's about it. So we can move on.
okay. And I think we've got 2 different types of criminal records reports to utilize, and I think both are good resources of information onto there. The IntelliCorp does have a $24.95 charge, and there is sometimes that in a state that may require more of an intensive county search situation, it may have an additional charge onto there. But it's just one tool for us to utilize onto there. Next, I'd like to introduce Jill Gussel. She is the Director of Court Information and Publications in Pierre. With the South Dakota Unified Judicial System, we have been utilizing criminal records reports through Jill for maybe 4 or 5 years now, maybe, and it provides very good information onto there. And Jill's going to take an opportunity now and go through the information on those reports. They're very good information on there, but we probably always don't understand them. And sometimes these reports may have an initial charge, and that may get dropped in there. So we did send out a couple samples, and I'm going to put them on the screen here. And then I want to, we'll go through those. Yeah. What is that noise?
It's a sound. It's another sound.
Are you guys hearing kind of a motor running noise out there?
Sounds like that phone hooked up.
Yes, we are.
Hold on here. I disconnected this phone line. Let me plug it back in. We shouldn't hear the phone line.
Is our phone line shut off? Would that have anything to do with it?
It shouldn't pick up a phone. I think we're picking up something from Mitchell.
Oh, is that?
There it is. I don't know.
The vacant site?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I it's seen it turn to the vacant site once in a while. Okay. And let me just close this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up. I sent out a couple attachments and documents just around noon, right before the training session. I think we're going to do what we call attachment number 1, sample number 1. And so let me bring it up on the computer here. Okay, looking for where Janet buried this thing. Would you call the DDN and have them drop the Mitchell site? What's that? Oh, okay. Don't think it's going to Mars, but. Okay, and let me turn it to the screen here a minute. Okay. Jill, can I turn it over to you to help explain the information that's on here?
First, I'd like to just...
What's that?
Never mind. Could you zero in on her so they can see?
Oh, okay. Hold on here.
Excuse me for interrupting your beginning twice.
Okay, hold on. Well, right now they're not seeing.
Okay.
I don't.
They'll just hear me.
Yeah, they're here, but they're seeing the screen onto there.
That's fine. First, I want to begin by telling everyone that we're a state agency. We're not in the business of selling court records. That's not what our intent is. IntelliCorp is in the business of doing that, but they are also a company, a customer of ours, the UJS, and so they do pay the $15 fee for searches to the UJS through a clerk court office, and then they populate their database with our data. The difference is that our system is live and theirs isn't. So when he mentioned within the last month or maybe even week, that's not live. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that, because you could have a felony arrest warrant last night, and if you don't do a statewide check through the court system, you are not going to see that live felony arrest. And so that is a little, a small concern, and it's with all third parties. It's not IntelliCorp only. It's with all, that they do not have a live system. So just take that, with a grain of salt, that they might say it's relatively recent. It can't be.
Yeah, and I'm not recommending staff to do one or the other. I think in many situations we can do them both.
Sure.
And recommend, especially if you know that they've been in a South Dakota address for some time, that. But again, you're right. It's not live. It's a month old at least onto there, and a person could have gone across the border and had a criminal records charge situation or two. So, hold on. Did you find out what it was?
I didn't know. I just asked her. I didn't ask her about the noise. I just asked her to disconnect the Mitchell site.
Hold on here. I don't know if it's that DVD player. Hold on. Let me put this on.